Phase 2 of the housing crash is now hitting Florida. Values have dropped significantly in the last year while the rest of the country went up. Foreclosures are at the highest rate of any state in America. 1 in every 230 homes, nearly double the national average. And a brand new risk report that just came out 4 days ago found that 16 of the 50 most at-risk counties in the entire country are in Florida. Charlotte County, Punta Gorda ranked number 1. And it's this condo right here. The owner bought it for $240,000 near the peak. It just resold for under $125,000. A 48% loss in less than 3 years. And when you look at it, this is not some rundown place. This is a livable unit that someone lost nearly half their money on. That's what's happening across Florida right now, particularly in the condo market, where owners are getting hit with special assessments of $100,000, $200,000, even $400,000 per unit. Entire condo associations are now filing for bankruptcy. Over 1,400 buildings have been blacklisted, meaning you can't even get a mortgage to buy a unit inside them. But here's what makes this phase 2 and not just a correction. The foreclosures are flooding inventory onto the market. That inventory is driving prices down. The falling prices are putting more owners underwater, and those underwater owners become the next foreclosures. It's a cycle now. And on top of that, the number of people moving to Florida has collapsed 93% from where it was in 2022. Florida is now getting fewer domestic movers than Alabama. Every metro area in the state is declining. Cape Coral is down over 10%. Sarasota condos are down almost 20%. Orlando just posted a 9% drop. This is not a prediction anymore. This is already in the books. Let's start with the foreclosures because this is where the data has gotten dramatically worse. Adam Data Solutions put out their year-end 2025 report in January, and Florida had the worst foreclosure rate of any state in the country. 1 in 230 homes received a foreclosure filing. The national rate is 1 in 385, so Florida is running at nearly double the rest of America. And it's not slowing down. Through February 2026, we now have 12 straight months of year-over-year increases. December was brutal. Filings spiked 57% in a single month. Bank repossessions are up 35% year-over-year. A U.S. economics professor said in November that it's unusual for foreclosures to increase 8 months in a row. It hasn't happened since 2008. Well, we're now at 12. And when you zoom into the metro level, it gets even worse. Lakeland in Polk County now has the worst foreclosure rate of any major metro in the entire United States. 1 in 145 homes. Cape Coral is number 4 nationally. Jacksonville is number 6. Tampa has the worst rate of any metro over 1 million people. And that Adam Risk report I mentioned at the top, the one that just came out 4 days ago, it found that Charlotte County is the single riskiest county in the nation for falling home prices, based on foreclosures, underwater mortgages, affordability, and unemployment. And here's the underwater mortgage piece that ties into this. Cape Coral now leads the entire country with 7.8% of homes underwater. That means that nearly 1 in 12 homeowners there owe more than their house is worth. That's the kind of number that feeds the next wave of distressed sales. Quick thing, if you're watching this and you don't have the notification bell turned on, you're getting this data days late. And in a market moving this fast, days matter. Hit that bell so you see these videos the moment they drop. All right, now let me show you the condo situation because this is where it gets really bad. Now, the foreclosures are serious, but the condo market is where phase 2 gets really ugly. And this is something that most people outside of Florida don't fully grasp yet. After the Surfside condo collapse in 2021, the one that killed 98 people, Florida passed laws requiring every condo building 3 stories or taller to get structural inspections done and fully fund their reserves. That funding deadline hit January 1st of this year, and now the bills are coming due. We're talking about 900,000 condo units in buildings over 30 years old that are subject to these mandates. And 40% of Florida condo owners have now been hit with a special assessment in the last 3 years. These aren't small numbers. The Cricket Club in North Miami assessed owners $134,000 per unit for roof and facade work. One owner there, he had liquidated his 401k to buy a unit for $190,000. got hit with that assessment and ended up selling for $110,000, a 42% loss. Mediterranean Village in Aventura is charging up to $400,000 per unit. A 79-year-old woman in another building got a $224,000 assessment on top of monthly dues that had already doubled to $3,000. Think about that for a second. If you're a retiree on a fixed income, you bought your condo, you thought your housing costs were set, and now you're getting a bill for $134,000 that you don't have? And it's getting worse because Fannie Mae has now blacklisted over 1,400 condo buildings in Florida. That means no buyer can get a conventional mortgage to purchase a unit in those buildings. You either pay all cash or you don't buy. Imagine trying to sell your condo and finding out that your building is on a list that makes it nearly impossible for anyone to finance the purchase. Your pool of buyers just evaporated. The numbers are reflecting all of this. Statewide, condo prices fell 4.7% last year, while single-family homes only dropped 1.4%. Condos are declining at 3 times the rate of houses. Miami-Dade has 13.2 months of condo supply sitting on the market right now. That is extreme oversupply. Active condo listings jumped 37% in a single year. 70% of condos are now selling below asking price. And average monthly HOA fees for high-rise buildings in Miami just passed $1,900 a month. That's up $500 from 2024. And here's the escalation that tells you this is phase 2 and not just individual sellers taking losses. In January, a condo association in Delray Beach, Palm Greens at Villa Del Rey, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with $43.7 million in liabilities. That's not an owner going underwater. That's an entire community going bankrupt. When condo associations start filing bankruptcy, you're in a different phase of this downturn. So the supply side is flooded. Foreclosures, condo dumping, forced sales everywhere. Now, let's talk about the demand side, because the demand story has gotten even worse than the supply story. The Census Bureau confirmed in February, net domestic migration into Florida collapsed from 310,000 people in 2022 to just 22,500 in 2025. That's a 93% drop. Florida went from the number 1 destination in the country to number 8. The state is now getting fewer domestic movers than Alabama. Let that sink in for a second. Alabama is attracting more Americans than Florida. United Van Lines, the moving company, now classifies Florida as balanced. 52% inbound, 48% outbound. That's basically a coin flip. During the pandemic, Florida was the most lopsided inbound state in the country. That's completely gone. And the reasons people are leaving are the same reasons that are crushing the housing market. Insurance is the number 1 driver. Florida homeowners pay an average of $7,136 a year for coverage on a $300,000 home. The national average is $2,543. That's 181% higher. In Miami, the average is over $22,000 a year just for homeowners insurance. Add in property taxes, flood insurance, HOA fees. A typical $400,000 Florida home now costs between $11,000 to $22,000 a year in non-mortgage carrying costs alone before you make a single mortgage payment. Climate risk is now the number 1 reason Florida residents tell Redfin they're likely to move. 6 hurricanes between 2022 and 24, 4 of them Category 3 or higher, changed the psychology. And Tampa's net inflow crashed from 35,000 to 10,000 in a single year, the biggest slowdown of any of the 50 largest metros in the country. By the way, if you're still here, you know more about what's actually happening in Florida than about 95% of the real estate agents trying to sell you a house down there. Just saying, hit the subscribe button if you haven't. All right, the economy. And behind all of this is a labor market that's weakening. Florida's unemployment rate hit 4.3% in December, up nearly a full percentage point year over year, one of the steepest jumps of any state. Initial jobless claims surged over 33%, while the national number actually dropped. WARN Act layoff notices hit 234 in 2025, affecting over 26,000 workers. That's the most since 2009. Kroger shut down fulfillment centers in Tampa, Groveland, and Jacksonville. 1,400 jobs gone, wiped out. Frito-Lay closed 2 manufacturing plants in Orlando. Disney has cut over 8,000 positions since 2023. Tourism arrivals dropped almost 9% in the first 9 months of 2025. Construction is shedding jobs, and Florida's unemployment safety net pays a maximum of $275 a week for only 12 weeks, the shortest and among the lowest in the entire country. When the job market weakens, that's when the people who are stretched on their mortgage payments start to actually miss them. That's what feeds the foreclosure cycle. Now, there is one potential piece of relief on the horizon, and it's about your property taxes. The Florida House passed a bill on February 19th, HJR 203, by a vote of 80 to 30 that would phase out non-school property taxes for homesteaded owners over 10 years. The House Speaker called it the most aggressive property tax legislation ever passed by a legislative chamber in American history. But it didn't make it through the Senate before the regular session ended on March 13th. The Senate never even scheduled a hearing. There's now a special session expected in mid-April where the Senate will bring a less generous version. Even if something passes, it still needs 60% voter approval on the November ballot, and the fiscal reality is significant. Full elimination would cost local governments $18.3 billion a year. So this is still very much up in the air. If it happens, it could provide real relief to homesteaded owners. But it does nothing for investors. It does nothing for condo owners getting hit with special assessments, and it's months away from being decided. If you're making a buying or selling decision right now, you can't bank on this. So here's what we're watching to tell us how much further prices drop from here. 3 data points. Number 1, inventory. Florida hit 182,589 active listings in April 2025. That's above pre-pandemic levels. January 2026 set a record for new listings, the most for any January going back to 2008. Collier County, that's Naples, has unsold inventory sitting 200% above where it was in 2019. As long as inventory stays this elevated, there is downward pressure on prices. That's just supply and demand. Number 2, sales volume and cancellations. Condo sales dropped almost 6% last year. Dollar volume fell over 10% after inflation. But here's the number that really jumps out to us. Home sale cancellations. In Orlando, 19.4% of deals are falling through. Tampa is at 19.1%. Miami is at 18.9%. The national rate is 14.6%. When nearly 1 in 5 deals falls apart, that tells you buyers are skittish. They're finding problems in inspection. They're getting spooked by insurance quotes, or they're simply realizing they can wait for something better. And investor purchases in Orlando dropped 16% year over year, the biggest decline of any major metro in the country. Investors are pulling back hard. Number 3, days on market. The statewide median is now 84 days. The national median is around 50. Over a third of all active listings in Florida have price reductions, and in Southwest Florida, it's above 40%. The sale-to-list ratio has dropped 96.2%, meaning sellers are accepting almost 4% less than what they're asking. When homes sit longer, prices come down. That's where we are. All 3 of these metrics are pointing in the same direction. More supply, less demand, longer wait times. For sellers, that means you need to price aggressively and be realistic about where the market actually is, not where it was 2 years ago. For buyers, this is getting better for you every month. You have leverage right now that buyers haven't had in the state in over a decade. And look, we know there are still people out there saying there's no downturn. There are still real estate agents in the comments saying you're wasting money renting, that you need to buy now or you'll miss out. Meanwhile, Florida has 16 of the 50 riskiest counties in America. Condo associations are going bankrupt. And Alabama is now getting more domestic movers than the Sunshine State. This is not 2008. The lending standards are tighter. There's more equity in the system. Cash buyers are still active, especially in the luxury market. But the broad middle of the Florida market, the $300,000 to $500,000 range where most people actually live, that is repricing, and it has further to go. This is ultimately a good thing. Florida needs to get back to being a place where someone making $50,000 to $60,000 a year can actually afford to buy a home. Before the pandemic, you could do that. We're heading back in that direction, but we're not there yet. If this helped you, smash that notification bell real good like. We drop new housing data every single week, and the people who catch it early are the ones making the smartest moves. If you wait for the algorithm to show you this stuff 3 days later, someone else already made the offer. The bell fixes that. We'll see you in the next one.